For almost 2 years, we've heard prosecutors explain what they believe Luigi Mangione did. But on August 14th, 2026, something changed. For the first time, Luigi Mangione stood inside a federal courtroom and publicly admitted that he killed Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. And he didn't simply say, guilty. He explained everything. And then he said it plainly. I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan. But strangely, Mangione admitting to the killing doesn't mean this case is finished. So tonight, we're going back to where this started, December 2024, and following the case all the way to the recent confession that changed everything. This is the case of Luigi Mangione. Welcome to the podcast You Can't Unhear. It was early morning in Midtown Manhattan. 50-year-old Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare, was walking toward the New York Hilton Midtown. United Health Group was holding its annual investor conference there that morning. Thompson never made it inside. At approximately 6:45 a.m., a masked gunman approached him from behind. Surveillance cameras captured the attack. Thompson was shot, and the gunman fled. Police immediately believed this wasn't random. The shooter appeared to know where Thompson would be, and approximately when he would arrive. Federal prosecutors would later allege that the killer had been planning the attack for months and had traveled to New York specifically to stalk and kill Thompson. The gunman escaped on a bicycle, rode north through Central Park, and eventually disappeared from Manhattan. Then began one of the most closely watched manhunts in America. Police started reconstructing the suspect's movements. Security cameras became crucial. Investigators traced him backward, eventually determining that the suspect had stayed at a hostel on Manhattan's Upper West Side. He had reportedly used a false New Jersey identification card when checking in. Then investigators began releasing photographs. One image showed enough of the man's face that suddenly millions of people were looking for him. For 5 days, police searched. Central Park was combed for evidence. Divers searched water. Tips poured in. But the suspect was already outside New York, more than 200 miles away. At approximately 9:14 in the morning, police in Altoona, Pennsylvania, received a call. Someone inside a McDonald's thought they recognized a customer from the photographs circulating nationwide. Police arrived. Sitting inside was Luigi Nicholas Mangione, 26 years old, originally from Maryland, a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. And when officers asked him for identification, he allegedly gave them a false ID. The same identity investigators said had been used at the Manhattan hostel. Police searched him. According to authorities, they found a 9mm pistol and suppressor consistent with the weapon used in Thompson's killing, a fake identification document, and writings expressing hostility toward the health insurance industry. Mangione was arrested. The 5-day manhunt was over, but the legal maze was just beginning. And this was part of what made the case explode online. Mangione didn't resemble the profile many people had imagined. He came from a prominent Maryland family. He attended the prestigious Gilman School, then the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned bachelor's and master's degrees in computer science. He had worked in technology. Friends described someone intelligent, social, and successful. But before the shooting, something had changed. Mangione had reportedly suffered from significant back problems. He underwent spinal surgery, and according to what he has now personally told the federal court, years of pain contributed to growing anger toward America's healthcare system. And according to Mangione's own 2026 statement, his frustration eventually became focused on one specific industry: health insurance. After his arrest, prosecutors alleged this wasn't an impulsive encounter. Mangione had selected Thompson, and now, almost 2 years later, Mangione has revealed another extraordinary detail about how. According to the account he gave the federal court, he discovered that UnitedHealth Group was holding its investor conference in December. But apparently, he couldn't find the precise location. So he created a way to get it. Mangione said he contacted the company, pretending to be an investor. Not a small investor either. He allegedly represented himself as managing approximately $15 billion to $50 billion in assets. And UnitedHealth responded quickly. That was the communication that helped him identify where the conference would take place. Mangione then said he researched Thompson, prepared, and travelled to New York. This wasn't, according to his own admission, a random CEO who happened to walk past him. He had gone looking for him. Mangione also discussed the weapon. According to prosecutors and his subsequent admission, parts of the firearm were produced using a 3D printer. The weapon was paired with a suppressor. When Mangione was arrested, authorities said the gun and suppressor found with him were consistent with those used in Thompson's killing. And then there were the writings. Authorities said Mangione possessed handwritten material discussing the health insurance industry, including a notebook that prosecutors believed documented his developing plan. By December 19th, federal prosecutors entered the case, and suddenly, Mangione wasn't facing just one prosecution. He was facing several. New York prosecutors charged Mangione with murder and weapons offenses. The original state indictment was particularly aggressive. It included first-degree murder in furtherance of terrorism, along with second-degree murder and multiple weapons charges. Separately, federal prosecutors charged him with stalking, murder through use of a firearm, and a firearms offense involving a suppressor. The federal murder count opened the door to something New York itself couldn't seek: the death penalty. In April 2025, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that federal prosecutors would pursue it. So, for a period, Luigi Mangione wasn't simply fighting life imprisonment. He was fighting execution. Then, the case changed again. The state terrorism theory suffered a major setback. A New York judge dismissed the terrorism-related murder counts while allowing the core second-degree murder case to continue. Mangione still faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life incarcerated. But prosecutors could no longer pursue the case exactly as originally constructed. Then came an even bigger ruling. Federal Judge Margaret Garnett dismissed the federal murder and firearms counts. And the reason wasn't that the evidence was insufficient. It was a legal issue. The federal firearm murder theory depended on the underlying stalking offense qualifying as a legally defined crime of violence. Judge Garnett ruled that under existing Supreme Court precedent, it didn't. She reportedly described the result produced by the law as tortured and strange, but she said she was required to follow it. That ruling eliminated the federal death penalty. Mangione was still facing 2 extremely serious federal stalking charges, each capable of producing a life sentence. And separately, New York still wanted to try him for murder. For months, both cases moved forward. Until August. Mangione entered federal court in Manhattan, but this time, Brian Thompson's family was there. And instead of another procedural hearing, Mangione stood and pleaded guilty. 2 federal stalking counts resulting in death. Then he began explaining what happened. Years of back pain, growing frustration with the healthcare system, everything that ultimately led him to Brian Thompson. Mangione acknowledged that he had traveled to New York intending to kill him. Then came the sentence that essentially ended any remaining mystery over whether he was claiming factual innocence. I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan, and he died. He acknowledged knowing his conduct was illegal. There was no mistaken identity, no accidental shooting, no claim that somebody else pulled the trigger. Luigi Mangione, under oath and in court, accepted responsibility for killing Brian Thompson. This is where the story gets legally fascinating. Because Mangione's attorneys didn't simply surrender, they may have changed battlefields. The federal stalking charges and New York murder case arise from the same killing. And immediately after Mangione's federal plea, his attorneys moved against the state prosecution. Their argument? Double jeopardy. Normally, the federal government and a state can separately prosecute conduct because they're different sovereigns. But New York has its own statutory protections that can be broader than the federal constitutional minimum. Mangione's attorneys argue that now that he has pleaded guilty federally, New York shouldn't be permitted to prosecute him again for the same underlying conduct. New York prosecutors strongly disagree. Legal experts are divided over whether the argument will work because the federal stalking offences and state murder charge contain different legal elements. And that's why, strangely, admitting to the killing might actually become part of Mangione's strategy for avoiding a murder trial. His New York murder trial is currently scheduled to begin September 8th, 2026. But whether it actually begins that day is now uncertain. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has indicated that it still intends to prosecute, while Mangione's lawyers want the case dismissed. The judge now has to consider whether New York law allows the state prosecution to continue after the federal guilty plea. There are several possible outcomes. The judge could allow the murder trial to proceed. The charges could be dismissed. The date could be delayed while the issue is litigated. Or prosecutors and the defense could potentially negotiate another resolution. But one thing has fundamentally changed. At a future state trial, the question would no longer exist in the same public vacuum. Because Mangione has already stood in another courtroom and admitted killing Brian Thompson. Then comes federal sentencing. Mangione faces up to life imprisonment on the stalking charges. Federal prosecutors are seeking life. Sentencing is currently scheduled for December 18th, 2026. So it's slightly premature to say he has already been sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. He hasn't. But a life sentence is very much on the table. And even if the New York case disappears, his federal guilty plea remains. And almost from the beginning, this case became something larger than one homicide. After Mangione's arrest, a strange fandom emerged. People attended court appearances. His image appeared on merchandise. Online communities treated him less like a murder defendant and more like a symbol. For some, the anger wasn't really about Brian Thompson personally. It was about insurance denials, medical debt, healthcare costs, and people's feeling that corporations have enormous power over whether they receive treatment. Mangione became a vessel for that anger. And perhaps the internet spectacle made it unusually easy to forget. There was another person at the center of this story. Brian Thompson. he was 50 years old. A husband, a father of 2. He had spent roughly 2 decades at United Health Group and became CEO of UnitedHealthcare in 2021. Whatever anyone thinks about the American insurance industry, Brian Thompson's family didn't experience December 4th as a political statement. They experienced it as a murder. And on August 14th, members of that family sat in the front row, while the man responsible finally described what he had done. So, almost 2 years after that surveillance footage first spread around the world, the biggest mystery is no longer, did Luigi Mangione kill Brian Thompson? Mangione himself has now answered that. Yes. The remaining questions are legal. Will the federal judge sentence him to life? Can New York still prosecute him for murder? Will the September trial happen? And how will the state court interpret his double jeopardy argument? Thanks for joining me tonight. I'm super curious on how this case will progress from here, so don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any updates. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode of the podcast You Can't Unhear.